up? This has been Foggin's Media Corner, and welcome back to another movie review, aka After I Saw. And today I'm going to be talking about the 2021 horror film known as Wrong Turn. Now, Wrong Turn, this is basically a reboot to the Wrong Turn series, which this whole series started back in 2003, in which I do have the first film right here on DVD, as you can see right here. In which I really enjoyed this one. This was an enjoyable horror movie set in the woods, but it's overall not my favorite horror film set in the woods because I've seen a few other ones and they were pretty good than this. It's not like this one's bad. No, this one still is a good movie with Eliza Dushku, and we've had a bunch of sequels as well that was just like released to DVD and stuff like that, and we've had prequels as well, which I've never seen, but I've heard not so good reviews as well for those ones. But this one still is this one I'm always very familiar with overall from 2003, and I did watch this last year, and it was a good horror movie that I enjoyed. So let's get into this reboot. So this was directed by McTee Nelson, and basically tells the story of a group of friends who are basically on this hiking trip to the mountains of Appalachian Trail, and when they're about to go there, there's a bunch of people, neighborhood people who are basically trying to warn these group of friends not to go there, and basically these kids, of course, ignore the warnings, and they basically find themselves in the woods where there's a bunch of mountain dwellers in the woods who are basically after them, and they're basically doing this whole like sacrificing thing that's basically happening to these people when they get kidnapped by these dangerous, scary people. And it's basically up to a bunch of these group of guys. This gang of friends to basically fight for survival, and hopefully they can survive out of the woods from these creepy people. So that's pretty much the story of Wrong Turn. So for this reboot, going into it, I didn't even know what to expect from this reboot because I didn't see much of the trailers. I didn't see much of anything really whatsoever. But again, like I said, I was always very familiar with this original film, which again I enjoyed this one last year when I watched it around Halloween time. But for this reboot, I didn't even know what to expect from it. Like I said, I didn't even know if it was either going to be good or kind of bad, because I've seen a few reboots that did work well for me, and there was a few that just really did not work for me whatsoever. But when I first saw a few parts of the trailer, I was again pretty curious to know what it was going to be like. But when I heard the reviews, I decided to check it out for myself for this reboot, since like I said, I saw the original film. And so I watched this reboot today, and this reboot wasn't that bad. I really enjoyed this reboot. This one was pretty enjoyable. I don't know if I like this a little bit more than the original film with Eliza Dushku from 2003, but this reboot was still pretty good overall. And for we'll get into the issues. I just want to get the issues out of my way for this movie, but but the issues I had with this movie is mainly the premise of this film fell a bit underdeveloped along with its writing in the film, which I thought it was left out and not finished, and it felt like it could have added a bit more to its premise, but the premise wasn't all that bad. I just thought it was a little bit underdeveloped overall, and despite this one's a bit longer than the original film, because the original film is pretty short. It's only like an hour and 20 something minutes, and while this reboot's an hour and 50 minutes. I thought the premise could have been a little bit more developed, even though the premise, like I said, wasn't all that bad. I just wish it could have had a little bit more to it. And the writing in this movie, I thought the writing in this movie was a bit underdeveloped and cheesy, because there were some cheesy characters we've seen before 1,000 times in horror films, mostly scared teenagers, which sometimes they do kind of work for me for horror films, and usually they just don't really work for me whatsoever. If there are any horror movies I've seen that are really bad, like either from Sony Screen Gems or from any horror studios I've seen any studio that makes horror films. But the teenagers in this film, they were all written all right, even though there was just some cheesy moments I thought were just, you can see where it's kind of going. But there are some really brutal, gory moments in this movie, which are extremely gory. Not as very, very extremely gory that can go way above its from its age rating of this movie, but some of the kills in this film are really brutal and very gory as well, because most of the kills in this movie involve a bunch of animal traps, which these mountain dwellers use to basically capture people, which they do mostly like that in this film, and there are some really brutal moments for what they do when they try to do this whole like sacrifice situation they're trying to do to these random people. And for like I really love the costumes as well. There's a bunch, they wear a bunch of bone like skeleton animal masks, uh, as well as like they wear like camouflage suits of sorts that looks a bit like grass, like that kind of stuff. In which, and then they carry like weapons with them. They were pretty creepy as well, and there are some really creepy moments with these scary people. And for jump scares, there were some good jump scares. There wasn't that any jump scares that I've seen 1,000 times that kind of go a bit very, which they mostly are like the ones I keep seeing all the time are mostly cliched or just pretty bad ones, and you can see them coming from a mile away. Those kind of jump scares. There's not that much in this movie which I thought that was going to be doing that, but the jump scares did work for me whatsoever. There are some pretty suspenseful moments with these scary people with these mountain dwellers, who are basically after these people who are in this woods, and you're basically trying to survive. And I felt like and for a story, like I said when I said it was underdeveloped, I thought it was just, it kind of cuts back here and forth when it cuts to either one of the kids in this movie, like the main girl in this film, which we mainly follow her in this movie, which she gets involved with the film, which she actually does something in this movie which is pretty good. Because most of the horror films I usually see are just they just don't do anything. That just really loses me interest of like what they wanted to do. But this one she actually does something, and it even cuts back to like Matthew Modine's character, which he's the father of this of this daughter who's in the woods, who's trying to survive this whole situation. I thought he was good in the movie, as well as the teenage girl in this film. She was also pretty good too. All the acting in this movie were pretty solid enough. But overall, Wrong Turn, this reboot, it was good. It's an enjoyable reboot to a horror film to the original horror film that I enjoyed, although it's not like the best horror film I've seen, but it still is a good movie. With some really brutal kills and really gory moments as well. It's just, again, there are a lot of things that just felt a bit underdeveloped and a bit cheesy. Mainly its premise and its writing, and some of the characters were a bit underdeveloped as well. It's just along with it, it's just right next to its writing as well, which that's just a bit of an issue with the film. But still, though, I had a good time with this reboot. And if you're a fan of the Wrong Turn movies, if you've seen them all, and if you've heard there's a reboot of this is definitely worth the one to see. It's streaming right now. It's coming soon on Blu-ray, pretty soon, and so I'm definitely might pick this one up. I'm not entirely sure, but I would like to, just to get some of my horror series in my collection, because I am a fan of horror films, and there are some of the horror films I really want to see so badly. So that's pretty much all I have to say about this reboot of Wrong Turn. So overall, I'm gonna give Wrong Turn 2021 a B-. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching for my review of Wrong Turn 2021, the reboot. Let me know what you think of this reboot. Did you have a really good time with it, or were you extremely let down with it, for those who are a fan of the Wrong Turn movies? So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and stay tuned for my next AK After I Saw review tomorrow. After I might do that one first, or maybe my Blue Sky Studios review tomorrow, which, like I said, I'm reviewing Haunting is Who tomorrow, and then probably do an AK After, and then I'll be doing an AK After I Saw review. I'm not sure which one is going to go first, but stay tuned for those tomorrow. And as always, this has been Forward's Media Corner signing off.